In this video, I'm going to show you how to make the clickers on Shimano reels louder. But first I have to spend a few minutes to give you some information about the spools and the design of the clicker mechanism itself. Now here is something you need to know. All Shimano reels with 1000 size body starting from Vanford and up have interchangeable spools. Okay, so the cheapest one would be Vanford, then Complex XR, then Soare XR, then the Twin Power has a 1000 size body, the Vanquish, and of course the Stella. If you get these reels in 1000 size body, the spools will be interchangeable. That's not always practical because the colors of these reels can vary drastically and it would look very ugly. But I'll give you an example where it is actually possible. This is the brand new Stella, and I'm gonna get the Complex XR spool, which is actually a 2000 size spool, and the original spool on this reel is 2200 size. It says 2500 somewhere, but it is 2200. It's smaller than the other 2500s, but because the body of the reel is 1000, you can get a spool from any other 1000 body reel. And let me show you the Complex XR on this 2500 Stella. Look at this. Now, this looks, you are not gonna notice this. This looks like a great match. If you need a backup spool on your Stella, you don't need to shove $200 on a spare Stella spool. You can get a Complex XR spool, or if you have a Complex XR reel, you can, and you have braid on one and whatever fluorocarbon on the other, you can swap them. The colors look nice, and they fit and work perfectly. Now, even though all of these spools are interchangeable, the design on the inside of the clicker mechanism is not exactly the same because there are slight geometrical differences that come from different radius of the spool, 1000 versus 2000 versus 2200, and also there are differences that come from the depth of the spool. Super shallow spool versus regular shallow spool. These will create small differences in what a distance the striker of the clicker needs to cover. If you look at these two strikers here, this is a Vanford and the Soare XR, notice that both of them are straight. But if you compare the Soare with the Complex XR, notice that the striker on the Complex XR is on an angle. Okay, that's because this spool is deeper. You can even see the lip over here. Look at how deep this lip is versus on the super shallow spool of the Complex of the Soare XR. This lip is much smaller. Then if you compare the Stella, you will see that the Stella hammer looks kind of like the Complex XR hammer, but it's not bent so much, but it's also a little bit longer. And the other interesting piece, look how the Complex XR and all the other reels, the hammer is hitting directly the rim of the spool, okay, on all other reels. But here, the hammer is not hitting the rim of the spool, but there is a little plate that is glued here to the wall of the rim. And now the hammer is hitting this little plate here instead of hitting the wall of the rim of the spool directly. This is the reason why the sound of the Stella will be very muffled, because this extra plate that Shimano put here makes the wall very thick. If you've done any experiments with acoustics, if you hit a thick wall, you're not going to get a lot of sound. If you hit a very thin wall, you're going to get a lot more reverberation. And Shimano had two choices here. They could either make the hammer very long and hit directly on the wall, which I believe was the correct approach, because with a very long hammer you can get some really nice sound. But perhaps the hammer would be kind of too long and clunky and maybe reliability issues. And they decided to put a plate here so the hammer doesn't have to be that long. And by the way, the only reason you need a plate on the first place is this is a 2200 size spool. The diameter of this spool is larger, and therefore the inside of the rim of the spool is farther away from the center of the spool. Okay, so that's why you need extra long hammer, or you need to glue this plate here. Okay, now that you understand the small differences between the spools, I will show you how to make these clickers louder if you want to. But in my opinion, the Shimano Vanford family does not need tampering with the screw. They are loud enough out of the box. They are loud enough for me. They should be loud enough for you. The Twin Power didn't need upgrade either. The Vanquish doesn't need upgrade either. The only reels that I have seen that kind of not require this upgrade, but can benefit from this upgrade is the Stella, because of this plate that Shimano glued here that's making the wall very thick now. And also the Ultegra that I had, I saw that reel. I don't remember the clicker anymore, but that reel could benefit from tampering with the spring also. And the way to make it louder, of course, it's not some rocket science here, is to remove this screw here, open up this spring that is between the rim of the spool and the hammer, and put it back together. I'm gonna open the Complex XR here just to show you guys, even though this spool is loud enough, you heard it on the Stella, it does not need tampering. But I'll open it just to show you. But before I open it, let me show you something on all of these reels, which is absolutely critical. Note this. Note that the hammer is moving, okay? This is very important. When the screw is fully tightened, the hammer is moving. This is by design. The hammer has to have free play. When you start putting it back, I'll show you even on the Stella, which has the best design of all of these reels. I'll tell you why. Look, the hammer is free, okay? The hammer has free play. When you feel some resistance here, you've gone all the way down. Don't over tighten, don't strip the bed, okay? The hammer, when fully tightened, is still free. It has to be free. Otherwise, it's not going to be able to operate, and it's not going to be vibrant. It has to vibrate a little bit too. I'll try to open the Complex XR live on camera. Again, I break it loose with the big screwdriver, but then I work with the little one, even though the little one is kind of a little bit too small for the head. But I like the little one. It allows me to see what I'm doing. Okay, here we go. I mean, it's worth taking a look where the spring, how the spring is, but you can see this in my video, how the spring was sitting before you remove it. Of course, I have 10 other spools here with me, and I've also done this a couple of times. So it's not a problem for me, but let's open the entire mechanism here and see the culprit. Well, it's not the culprit, but what we need to work with. This little spring here, what is it's like a, I don't know, 45-degree angle. All you have to do is open this to about 90-degree angle. Don't go more than that. 90-degree is absolutely plenty, but I just grab them with my fingers and I hold them very hard, even though it's a thin spring, but I just don't want them to jump, and I just open them a little bit. Okay, even 90 degrees, you don't even need to go 90 degrees, because I know this reel was already pretty good. I'll open it just a little bit. I mean, if you want to go 90 degrees, you can go 90 degrees to make it louder and hit harder. And that's it. And now you're done. But now the torture begins, because now you have to put it back together. Now let me tell you something important here again. Let me show you this screw here. You know the difference between a screw and a bolt? You do, right? This here is a screw. It is not a bolt. This is a screw, my friends, that is screwed into a plastic bed. You have to keep this in consideration. All of the Vanford reels, the screw goes into a plastic bed. You cannot use force here. You're gonna strip it, and then big problems. You don't use force here, okay? You need thread locker, but no force. Again, screw going into plastic bed. Now I cannot open the Stella here, but the Stella, and this is sometimes the invisible differences between expensive reels and cheap reels. In the Stella, which I already did, this is not a screw, my friends. This is a bolt. Okay? This is a bolt, and the bed here for the bolt is metal, and the bed is threaded, and the bolt is going in a thread in a metal bed. There is just sometimes invisible differences between expensive tackle and cheaper tackle. Now I'm gonna try to put this together, and I'll give you one final tip on how to put it back together. Okay, I put the thread locker in the hole instead of on the screw, because if you put it on the screw, it would be messy with your fingers and you'll remove most of it by the time you're done. But now here is the tip that I'm gonna give you. I found that even with good tools, trying to drop this back in the spool is near impossible. You need to get lucky to drop it back in the spool. So the way to do it is use gravity to your advantage. Put this, I mean, it's extra hard for me. This is hard enough without camera, but it's extra hard for me on camera. Put this on a little screwdriver like this, and then hold the spool like this and descend the spool on top of it. This way nothing is falling off your screwdriver. Do you understand? Now I cannot show you this on camera because I need to raise all of this above my head, because while I'm descending I still need to be looking at it. So I have to be looking from under into the spool to make sure I screw the screw into the hole. The other thing is, don't worry about where the wire sits right now. Make sure to put the screw into the hole and tighten it like halfway, maybe tighten it like only halfway and stop there. Then we're gonna turn it around and we're gonna get a very small, like a needle or a screwdriver, and we're gonna adjust the tips of the wire. Man, I know this can be frustrating, but trust me, if I can do this on camera, you can do this without camera. And I'm trying to even show you this. Now, I just screwed the screw halfway as I told you, but you can see the wire is not sitting correctly. So all I'm gonna do right now is move the wire, slide the wire a little bit. Let me see how I'm gonna show this on camera or do this off camera. Well, I think we're almost done. Yeah, we are done. We did push it, and now it's really loose. I have to tighten it, which I will do with, actually I'm gonna do it with a small screwdriver, because you really don't need a lot of force when you're tightening this. See, I'm tightening. I felt the resistance already. I think I'm done. I'll verify with the big screwdriver again. No force here. I'm very gently pressing to make sure it's all the way in. Yep, that's all the way in, folks. And I put plenty of thread locker. Let's check the free play. See, there is a lot of free play when you're done. That's why I showed you this, because you may think, oh no, I need to tighten more. There is free play, there has to be a free play, but I can feel already because of the spring it's much tighter. Let's put it on the Stella, see how it sounds on the Stella now. Sure it fits here. Not much louder, a little bit louder I can hear. Let me put it closer to the microphone. That's a loud enough clicker for me. Alright folks, that's all I have for this video. Beware these little traps here. It's very easy for something to jump or to strip the mechanism. If you have one of these Van Fort reels, don't mess with it. If you have a Stella, be very careful, but actually, interestingly, the Stella is not so easy to strip. You can lose some part, but because everything is metal here, you're not gonna strip anything. And yeah, thanks for watching this one. See you soon. Bye bye.